Hola community, welcome to Blender.Today 200. It's been like 5 years of Blender.Today streaming live. I think this is the longest thing I ever done in my life, and I'm so happy that there's more people getting connected with Blender development and to see how the open source community can push software further, can get feedback. I hope this in the future this serves as an example for other communities of open source software to share their news. I really love what we're doing here, and I hope we get to do 200 more. Actually, I've done 400 because I have done this same in Spanish also for 200 episodes. Today is the same anniversary. So let's get to it. If you are old enough, you remember this t-shirt. Hello? Hello? I am kind of in the middle of something. The fuck is it?
It's a special cake.
Look at this. Hey.
Congratulations.
Look at this, the size of this cake. Thank you. How is everybody doing
You
here?
like chocolate and can eat and talk at the same time.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting people, so I hello, sorry. Hi.
Where is the cup? Here.
It's over there, yeah. You can come.
Here, I can act casual, like this. Like this.
I wasn't expecting this. I have some intruders in the show. Francesco City and the Life Felinto, you know them. They've been on the show before. Am I supposed to eat this? No?
So yeah, it's a little brick. So we were like, okay, we can eat in turns. So then one person can talk and one can eat. You should try it to see if it's good or not.
I would try definitely.
So,
okay, we're going to see Blender stuff soon. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, guys, 200. Did you say there is 200?
Yeah,
200. It's like, it's insane. So you know, we are super happy that you are able to keep going with this thing for so long. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I sit down. Okay, the audio is not ready for this kind of interaction.
They cannot donuts.
Think I've done not donuts. Nobody here. Have you ever done the donuts tutorial?
No, my sister has.
But you have? No. It's new. So, all right. I have one bite. I want to try because I want to spend the next hour talking about Blender without actually being able to eat it.
Okay. Really? Can eat and talk.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. Sure. What have you been doing? We haven't got commentary. Right. Talai is in charge of.
Being part of the Jump to Notes project and now the Hair project, working together with the team. It's a noisy sound. I hope not anymore.
No, that's like 30 seconds.
And then more recently, we have been working on the asset integration. So have ways to have your asset in the asset browser showing up in the add menu, in the add nodes menu, or even in the viewport as an operator for curves and eventually mesh as well.
So Jack was showing that on Twitter.
Jack was showing exactly was like joint effort, working on the prototype for the asset integration, and then he was working this operator that can basically take a geometry node and apply the curves you have, and even pass the selection so the geometry nodes know what to do with the selection. People still mentioning about the audio. That's very unlikely to be the problem, is it?
Problems?
Huh.
Audio glitching. Yeah.
Pablo can't eat.
Yeah.
And then what else? And I mean, it's super nice the Blender.Today. I remember right when you're beginning, or the Blender UI, something like this.
Yeah.
And then to see how it grew as a very important outlet, a place to reaching out to the community, how people respond to that, how developers follow the show as well. People talking about the cable being loose. Yeah, I'm here opening my heart and people talking about the cables being loose. It wouldn't be a special edition if there was no real live issues. That's the difference between a recorded video and a live event.
Stop stepping on the wire. All right, I think I can continue with them.
Let me try my cake.
Yeah. So, is that okay? It's not good? Audio problem? Sound is terrible? Report the bug on the audio. Better. Check the audio. Okay, fix. Yeah. All right. So the Francesco is eating them there. All right. So why are these guys here? Well, besides being a developer, also Francesco worked on the Blender community website. The Blender where like this all started because of the Blender.Today community that we built
500 years ago.
500 years ago in 2014. So this is the place where you can ask questions. It's also the place where you can leave proposals on right-click select, and it has built a community over the years that I'm pretty happy to see that it continues to grow, and we still use it. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna start talking about the news in Blender if you don't mind.
No, that's okay. We can also just leave you do your thing. But
No.
You should eat some more cake.
No, but I can't. We're streaming.
Okay. That's then we will.
Unless you want to talk about what Project Heist.
I can say
Go,
a couple
come
of things so that then you can eat your thing. Hey guys, so this is how it feels. Very cool. And then there is like you like poking through from the screen. Okay. I hope like these weeks have been very very busy. Like last time, previous week you also Pablo skipped one event, one live stream because there was a lot going on. I also wanted to celebrate this more properly, but we've been working together on a number of things. Of course, there is at the Blender Studio the ongoing project Heist, so we keep sharing on the studio website the development, and the idea is that as SIGGRAPH comes up in a couple of weeks in Vancouver in Canada, we want to bring some demo files and share like a more in-depth look at what the project is about and what the project is where the project is at, which is really exciting. The whole team is working both on animation and lighting and rendering and shading, and it's really starting to come together, and it's really amazing.
Maybe we can see
Picture.
we can see actual,
Yeah, stuff.
I have
A website. Oh.
a sneak peek
Oh.
of something that is coming up.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's one of the big. Well, what you see here is, of course, the upcoming version of the Flamenco Render Manager, which is the work that has been led mostly by Sybren. He's been spending a lot of time and focus and energies to bring to us the next iteration of the Flamenco Render Manager, and this week we are really wrapping up the presentation for it, the docs, the tools, and so on. And it's I am really looking forward to it, and we the focus has been really like making it as usable and as simple as possible to get started with. So the idea is that you should be able to get this exact interface and this exact integration in your own system with just a few clicks. So that's like really cool. And I don't want to spoil much because I mean it's but you can see what we're looking at here is like the list of jobs that we have. This is the farm at the studio, so this is the work that the guys are doing in the art department. So you see different iterations of the shots that they're working on, and this is like a list of jobs. These are the list of tasks, so what each machine is actually going to work on or worked on, so with the different statuses and so on, so you can really check stuff. You can even look at the logs of what the computer has been working on, or you can actually see them here. There is like a notification system. There's lots of very exciting stuff, and the website is very fast and very portable, so it's something that we really look forward to share later this week, and probably next week Pablo is gonna do a like more in-depth overview of how this looks like. And I've been spending quite a bit of time together with Pablo working on this, but this is mostly really thanks to the big efforts that Sybren has been putting in to make this work. And yeah, I mean, I think that's mostly what's been going on.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So,
we are just here hijacking. Like Pablo had like all these notes, all the things that he wanted to do, but then like we arrive and
Project Heist is using Eevee.
yeah,
And yet the render farm is being used for Project Heist.
yeah.
Does it mean that Blender finally gonna have a headless render mode?
Well, rumor on the street is that this is ongoing, this development, and mostly due to indeed the challenge of not needing to have your graphic environment on to use Blender. So like, hopefully we should see something soon about that.
So yeah, just a
Just
special
saying.
episode. We can tease new features.
Just
It's
like,
one
yeah,
exception we
just-
have.
Okay, so I think it's high time for us to leave it to Pablo. So congratulations again, Pablo.
Thank you.
And we take the rest of the cake and have a good show. Bye bye.
You were wondering, where was I? Record time, I finished this. All right, sorry about that. But you got a little sneak peek. Actually, it was really unexpected. But it's super sweet of the guys to come with cake. I am so happy that we actually managed to show some stuff, because what you see here is it's literally the render farm software that Blender is using here in the studio. And okay, there is something wrong here. There is one frame that is actually I don't think this is how it's just supposed to look, but this is amazing. So really cool that we get to see this in action. And this is a Blender project. It's made here at the studio. It's open source and it's connected with Blender, with the Blender add-on. So the fact that Blender can, like the Blender Studio can invest not only in Blender the software, but also in making other software that make the whole pipeline for rendering open source, it's amazing. And also, as you heard, the rumors is that the team is working on making, at the moment, if you want to render with Eevee on a render farm, you need to have like a screen, you need to have a graphical UI. But the team is working on trying to get Eevee to work without. So that means Eevee on a render farm. Okay. It's your birthday. No, it's not my birthday really, but it's almost. Because we're actually here to celebrate the 200th episode of Blender Today. And for that, we're just gonna have a normal show, despite all the things that we're going on. So let's start with... Where is everything now? Where is my... Here. Okay, so pipe. Let's talk about Grease Pencil. There is a new change. Actually, it's more like a fix, but it's a change in the dope sheet editor that allows you to see keyframes of both regular keyframes of your objects, like camera, depth of field, materials, whatever, and Grease Pencil objects. So Grease Pencil is no longer like its own thing. You don't have to have a separate editor for it. Now you can just basically have it all in one place. If you look at here, there was a demo. It was an image demo. Oh no, in the wiki page, I think. Let's see the wiki quickly. And no, it's not in the animation. But basically, you're gonna be able to see the layers of So this is a bug report that was submitted by Matthias time ago with an image that I made, that this is what you would expect, right? To see in the dope sheet, everything in the summary, the Grease Pencil keyframes and the regular keyframes all in one. So pretty exciting. When is the release date for Project Heist? Hopefully by the Blender conference, so in October. But if you want to learn more, go to studio.blender.org. You're gonna find all the information there. Plus, you get to see the progress of the team, or what the team is doing. So, for example, if you go to Films, Project Heist, in the production logs, you can actually see everything. For example, this is what it was uploaded today by Rick. So, ew, kind of creepy. But that's what the animation team, and it's all animated. It's all hand animated. Ooh, look at that. What is this? Why Simon Thomas? Wow. Kind of creepy. All right, so more creepy material at... That's amazing. And this is Eevee. Whoa, nice. It's missing particles and stuff, but like for this, but I know the team is working on this. It's insane. All right, cool. Sorry about that. I said I missed the last weekly here at the studio, so I'm only seeing this at the same time as you are, for the first time. Let's see. Cycles. Let's talk about cycles a little bit. So first, well, actually, most of it is all optimizations. Like it's all performance now that I look at it. It's the first one. It's a more general one, so it basically internally cycles now get all the shaders sorted, which saves some time. If you can see, it's like a micro improvement. Like it's very little, but this is per sample. So if you multiply this for as many samples as you have, actually at the end of the day you end up with a much faster preview. Everything, the first sample, all the other samples are gonna be faster, so yay for that. And this is for everything, even for CUDA, optics, and also for Apple GPUs. So now, speaking of apples, there are some optimizations too on done by the Apple team on a test on an M1 Max and samples per minute. So it manages to deliver many more samples per minute. So where it was giving 83 is now giving 93 samples per minute. So higher numbers are better, and that's so cool. It's actually many people involved. Jason, I know I've seen him here in the developer.blender.org. Michael as well, but Mortez I haven't. So cool. There are so many people involved from Apple working on Blender stuff. Well done. Well done. Okay, more. This is a mainly PSA. So if you had issues with cycles hair rendering, like the precision was a bit weird, well, that has been fixed. There is actually here some images where it shows the errors that cycles was having, and now that has been solved. So cool when artists share their like some cool artwork. Just happens to have some cool artwork in the as part of the bug report. Another improvement is it's a presets. So the performance panel on cycles allows you to tweak the rendering in a way that you can maybe make it so it uses less memory if you're running out of memory, or you can just, if you have a lot of memory, you can make it use more in exchange for faster render. So those settings are maybe not always the most descriptive ones to use. So for example, if you have cycles and in the performance panel, if you don't know what these things do, no worries. You can click on here on the top right for the presets, and then you can either have the default if you don't know what they do, or you can also just optimize it for the faster rendering or lower memory. So this way, if you are running out of memory, you can just turn this on, and the render should maybe take a bit longer to render, but it will not, for example, crash if you run out of memory. What else? Faster rendering. What else? More Apple GPU updates. So this, in some of the higher end M1 GPUs from Apple, there have been some speedups of up to 15%. That's amazing. It's only for cycles. Actually, we have even some updates that are for everything, even like the next update, it allows Apple Silicon machines to use 8 wide BBH, which gives, in the release notes, mention an 8% performance boost. But this is not just for GPU. I think this is for everything, for just regular usage of Apple Silicon. That's so cool. I see the EV Next setting. Somebody noticed that I have EV Next enabled. That's just my preferences. There's nothing really. If you turn that on, I'm sorry, but hey, wait, there are panels now. This used to be empty when EV Next was on. Is that anything? Anything promising? No, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I don't think we have any news regarding that in this release. Brecht still hammering out fixes on a single sample level. Yeah, that's insane. It's like per sample. So cool. Am I miss anything? Pablo, do you have an English degree? I mean, first certificate? No, I learned English on the forums. And you can tell if you look at my Blender Artists user, you can see that I learned English just on IRC. If you don't know what IRC is, then you're a young soul. Next, render. All right, so this has to do with rendering, but with light groups in particular. So for the time being, cycles only. But this is a feature that makes it so if the light group is renamed, because you just change your mind, you want to change the name of the light group, then all the objects and the world that are associated with that light group in that view layer are going to be renamed as well, so you don't lose that. It's like a fix mainly. It could happen that if you just change the name, then all the other objects will not belong to that light group. Next. Ooh, undo performance. All right, there's no actual times on how much faster this is, but it's now multi-threaded, so it usually depends on how many cores your computer has. This is kind of crazy. So improving image undo performance by Alex Parker. Thank you, Alex. It's just I really like how this was a task that was made by Jorun on like July 8th, just saying like, hey, it seems like undo on images on texture painting is just very slow. Maybe we could use this. And then someone just, Alex just show up. He's like, hey, I had a go at this and I think I fixed it. Isn't that amazing? Like 2 days later on Sunday, just someone just jump up and they say, hey, I made undo multi-thread and much faster. That's amazing. Okay, let's talk a bit about geometry nodes. More performance even. Today is just performance and cake day. So the UV sphere primitive is now much more performant. How much? About 3.6 times faster on a test with 10 million vertices. So it went from nearly half a second of calculating it to 130 milliseconds. So pretty nice, especially if you're using the UV sphere primitive a lot. That's amazing. The reasoning for this parallelization method instead of more standard data size. Okay, so it's mainly parallelization. Next, geometry nodes. Oh yes, Ari Ramati has been tweaking a bunch of descriptions and tooltips for nodes, and together with today we also have a bunch of updates on the translation of this stuff. So super nice. And also Hans, he's a native English speaker. He has been and he works on geometry nodes, so what a better team to tackle those together. But yeah, basically now when you leave the mouse over a node, when you do Shift A for example, you're gonna see actually what the node does. Yes, it sounds very basic, but that wasn't the case before. Actually, until like one version ago, when you mouse over a slider, it would just always show a generic, or like a widget, it will always show a generic tooltip. So super welcome to see these kind of changes. So related to the geometry nodes is the spreadsheet editor, where you can actually inspect what is happening either on your geometry like meshes, volumes, instances, but also curves. In this change, Hans shares that he implemented selection filtering for curves sculpt mode. So while you're sculpting, you can actually see what's going on. You can see the values change even for the selection. So you have something selected and you can see the radius or position or any attributes in that selection. Yay, it's like a spread. Yeah, it's a spreadsheet. Like Excel in Blender. speaking of curves, well, I think this is the biggest change since this was implemented. So now you can sculpt on deformed curves. What does it mean? That if, well, basically that you don't need to be like in rest pose anymore when you are editing sculpting the curves. This was one of the biggest limitations that the system had. So it was the must for having this in 3.3 LTS. So now it does. As you can see here, the Jack is making a demo of the braids, of like having a braids tool, geometry nodes that was made by Johnny, I think. And you can see now how he's sculpting, but also seeing the animation, like letting the animation transform the mesh, the base mesh, and then sculpting on top of it. I think the other video shows it even more clear here, because you can see now how sculpting on hair and then just changing with nodes underneath. Okay, I'm gonna make it points, and sculpt mode still works. All right, I'm gonna transform it with nodes, and then this still works. So you can have like a, that's insane. So you're basically sculpting on top of the deformed data. There is probably a lot of crazy space going on. The crazy space is this space that is crazy when you try to transform something that is already transformed by something else. For example, editing vertices on a post character, that kind of transforms. So for the questions, remember we have a thread on Blender today. You can leave your questions there, and I will try to answer them towards the end of the show as I continue with the focus on the new features in Blender, such as, speaking of curves, the Fillet node now is multi-threaded, so much faster, like magnitudes faster, right? Because the more you use it, the more it is calculated in parallel, so it's hard to measure, basically. One thing that it's easy to measure is related also to performance. It's something that Blender does internally to assign, for example, when you duplicate objects, when you import objects, the names of those objects, they need to somehow be managed, right? Like you have to give either .001, or you have to sort them in a way properly. And there has been optimizations in that. Addon has been single-handedly making Blender so much faster, because this is the kind of operations that are done all over the place whenever like you duplicate objects. For example, in this commit, when you duplicate 10,000 cubes, what used to take 8.7 seconds now is 1.9 seconds. So the same importing objects, it's a similar concept, right? When you shift D, when you duplicate the renaming of those objects, it's similar to when you import new stuff, right? You have to give it a unique name. So importing a 2.5 gigabytes object file with around 24,000 objects, it took from 34 seconds to now only 22 seconds. Then the Disney Moana USD scene that I mentioned a few times already, because it has it used to, like a few weeks ago, it just used to take many hours and it will crash anyway. So it's so cool to see it every week getting better and better. Remember some weeks ago I mentioned that this file now is like 2 hours less. It takes 2 hours less to finish importing, and it crashes at some point. But now it's crashing faster, which is good, right? At some point, it's just gonna become so fast that, all right, better fix the crash. So the Disney Moana scene with around 500,000 objects went from 56 minutes, nearly an hour, to 10 minutes. That's insane. So it's now 10 minutes only to crash. It still crashes, right, when trying to render it, but at least that's a separate patch. That's something else. But the importing at least happens now in like from 1 hour to 10 minutes. Still a long time, but 10 minutes. That's amazing. So look at all the love that there is there. Okay. Next, related to speed and with import export, this fix also by Aras is on speeding up. Oh wow, so it's now even faster. All right, the OBJ file that used to take 34 seconds, then 22, now takes 20.7 seconds. So hey, 2 seconds faster. But the USD, the Disney Moana scene that used to take many hours, then 2 hours, then 1 hour, then 10 minutes, now it takes 1.5 minutes to crash, right? I guess the crash is still there. It's not mentioned, but Aras, you're making, yeah, literally leaps in speed. 1.5 minutes. A few commits ago, it was an hour. It's insane. Okay. I mean, probably still crashes, but hey, it's faster. The faster it crashes, the easier it is to. That's why it's cool that Blender opens so fast, because that way you can crash it faster. Okay, the next improvement is not performance, but it's an option in library overrides. Allows you to make an override of all the selected objects. Previously it would only work on the active one, but now it works on any selection you have in the outliner. Shall we talk about UVs? We don't talk much about UVs, but as I mentioned a few weeks ago, there is a developer that is actually being hired by Blender, which has a development fund grant to work on the UV, only on UV editing, the UV editor. And the UV editor, it has so many like low-hanging fruits and fixes to be done before a big overhaul is done. This, for example, this is by Siddhartha. It's not by Chris. I was mixing. I think Chris is the next patch. But this one by Siddhartha adds box and lasso selection for partially intersecting edges. So in UV edge mode, box and lasso selections allow edge selections only when the entire edge is contained within the selection area. This doesn't consider any edges that partially overlap with the selection area. This is now fixed by adding a second pass, similar to how it works for the edit mesh selections. So that is super nice. Is like a video demo maybe? No, but he has 2 thumbs up, so I'm gonna believe that this works. One of them by Campbell even. So okay, yes, it definitely works. The next improvement, also by Siddhartha, it adds support for select the shortest path operator in edge selection in the UV editor. So the calculation of the shortest path selection was done using vertex path logic instead of edge path logic. Since the UV editor now supports proper edge selection, this approach can sometimes give incorrect results. So now this has been fixed by adding a separate logic to calculate the shortest path in UV edge mode. Lasso pronounced lasso. Lasso? Lasso. That's good. That's how I would say it in Spanish. The next improvement, also in the UV editor, is by Tomek Gubala. He made it so the snap option that is available in the 3D viewport to snap the 3D cursor to the center of the world, the like 0, 0, 0, it's now available in the UV editor as well. There was was basically lacking. So it was just not there. There was room for it because the snapping options between the viewport and the UV editor have been made to match. I did this maybe 3 releases ago, but now it's there. It's called cursor to origin, and it's gonna set the cursor, the 2D cursor, to 0, 0. Then the next, it's okay. These two, I don't know exactly in which section to to add them. So, do you know that from the camera view, you can set an object to be your depth of field target? So you can say this object is my depth of field. So if I get it closer to the camera or far away, the depth of field and the focus is gonna move with it automatically. That was possible for all regular objects, but not for bones until Damien Picard fixed it. So the option now allows you to, if you have a bone, for example, if I add a human meta rig in the camera, I can make it so the lens, depth of field, I mean even next, that's why. Even next doesn't have depth of field yet. So now if you select a meta rig, you can choose the bone that you want to focus on. So yay, no more having to create a empty just for, sometimes you have to create an empty and parent it to the eyes, for example. Now you can always make it focus. So you can even rig, oh that's so cool, for camera rigs you can just use that now without drivers. That's cool. I think maybe the add-on for camera rigs needs to be updated. The add camera rigs. Do you know this add-on? Built-in Blender adds the camera, dolly, crane, and 2D camera rig. I think Rigify and the camera rigs add-on should be on by default because they really expose so much. Like otherwise it's just like a single bone armature that you can add. It should be added. The thing is, the more add-ons do you enable by default, the slower Blender gets to open. It's milliseconds slower, but the more add-ons you have, it takes a slightly bit longer to register those add-ons and stuff. Okay. Next, a new operator to apply and delete all the shape keys. So the same way you can do this with shape keys, that you basically should create a new one. You can delete all of them, but now you can apply and, what is the name? Apply and delete all the operations for the shape keys. It's a request by the Blender Studio. Okay, user interface. Well, everything is a bit of user interface, right? So this gonna cover a bunch of sections. For example, the markers in the animation editors. The markers. Oops. So do you know that in Blender, when you delete something with the X, it asks you if you really want to delete it, but if you press delete, then it doesn't ask you. It doesn't prompt you to, because the reasoning is that if you left your hand and you went all the way to the delete button in your keyboard, then it means that you really want to delete it. But the X can be done by mistake. So that's why it prompts you if you really want to delete that. You can change that from the key map if you prefer to not having reported to you. Like if you do delete, you can basically anywhere, for example, in the object mode, you can just click on confirm, and this will remove the confirmation on object mode, delete. For example, if I press X, it deletes it. But anyway, why am I mentioning this? Because the same concept is now applied for the markers. If you press X, it's gonna prompt you. If you press delete, it doesn't. Completely section of Blender. The curves modifiers didn't have the copy to selected setting on. So when you select multiple and you right click, copy to selected, that wasn't possible for the new curve objects. Now it is. Over at the rendering, at the image editor, so when you render, the border, the render border operator is now snap the border to the pixels just outside of the drawn border to more easily select specific pixels by drawing a border inside them. And also the image editor now supports cropped border renders. So the cropped here, when you render something and you make it crop, that thing. I think I'm covering half of that. There you go. So this way I don't cover. Okay. Another improvement in the, I don't need to be this large. Okay, this is all about translations. So there were many areas when I was going through this, through the list of changes, there were many areas that weren't even marked for translation. So no wonder that they were still in English, even though sometimes when people ask me, hey, can I use Blender in Spanish? I'm like, yes, but you shouldn't. What you should do instead, because it's gonna make it easier, well, more difficult for you to follow tutorials. So it's what I usually recommend is that people, for example, set Spanish, but not the UI, not the interface, just the tooltips, and that's it. So that way, when you leave the mouse over, the description is in Spanish, but the name of the tool and all the screenshots are in English. So you have to learn English, but only a little bit. But yeah, there were many areas in Blender that weren't even like allowed to be, or like enabled to be translated. For example, the quick favorites menu, the operators, there weren't, some of the operators were not being translated, like last session, dernière session, or transform, transformer. I'm gonna butcher some French, sorry. There are many changes, all by Damien, by the way. The tooltips coming from menu descriptions also weren't being translated, like collection specials. That's the description of a menu. Now it's actually translated. It says Special Collection. Then tooltips coming from menu descriptions. Then modifier strings, many modifiers, like modifier names, were not being translated. What the heck? Modifiers. Then the sub panels inside of the modifiers also were not being, didn't have support for translations. So now they do. And lastly, the node operator tooltips, these new ones that just were added a few weeks ago, now they also support translation. So yay for that. Okay, a bit of a potpourri section. We are still in a potpourri section. This is mainly a PSA, public service announcement, that if you ever run into this, I know people run into this because they've been poking me about it, is the hex color, the hexadecimal color in what you set there would not always match with what you, for example, set for painting. There was a mismatch in color that has been fixed. So for example, here you copy a color and then you use it for painting, but then when you paint it will look different. Why? Because of gamma correction. So that has been fixed. So now if you actually set the same color that you pick in the color attributes, it all matches. So yeah, it looks like it doesn't work, but it just works because it's the same color. So yay for that. Let's talk a bit about add-ons. Bunch of add-ons have been updated this week. One of them, Rigify. now you can enter the name of the first generation. So when you generate your meta rig, Rigify, let's not use the word meta, Rigify. Now you can give it a name, and it will make it easier for you when you have a bunch of Rigifys, meta rigs. Also, well, this is sometimes I like to add fixes just to spread awareness of the things that are available in Blender that sometimes people that are not even aware of. That, for example, there is a fix on the bone roll. It was inconsistent in the wolf meta rig. Did you know that Blender comes out of the box with a wolf rig? Yes, armature, animals, wolf. Why not a dog? So I guess if you want to have a dog, you have to play evolution and make it so from the wolf you make it into a dog. But yeah, anyway, this is amazing. Now the roles are properly set in the wolves. Next, system property chart now supports custom properties. That's awesome. The patch was originally by Chris Klein and with some changes by Campbell, but what makes it special, I don't know if you know this add-on, but it's a request I made many years ago. I think I was on Sintel, like 2010, and I wanted to change some values in multiple objects at the same time, and these objects usually they were cameras or sometimes lamps, but anything really. And Campbell came up with an amazing add-on called the property chart. The property chart allows you to select multiple objects. For example, if I have a bunch of lamps, and you can see the data, the information, the properties of any object that you have selected all here. And this is awesome because, for example, by default it comes with two options. One is data, use auto smooth. This is basically just as a demo, so if you have many objects, you can see which of these objects have or don't have the auto smooth on or off. So for example, if you want to turn it on and many at once, or you want to see the status of auto smooth in these objects, you can just toggle it from here. But also I was using it for lights a lot, so lights don't have auto smooth, so this doesn't work. But if I want to see, for example, the radius, I can do shadow soft size. So I have data shadow soft size, then I can tweak this property individually for each lamp. This is amazing. You can rename things super easily with tab, go back and forth. You can toggle multiple settings at once. It's brilliant. And now it supports custom properties. I got a bit carried away, but now it supports custom props. All right, next, the GLTF exporter now can handle all 4 types of color attributes, also known as vertex colors, such as corner, points, bite, or float. So yay for that. Okay, so a lazy developer has been fixing his own add-on. So Amaranth, the Amaranth toolset, is a add-on that it's a bit of a cluster of features that had many bugs actually. One of them, for example, there is a feature for listing the users of a data block. It happened when I made this. I remember I wanted to see who was using, I think it was Tears of Steel. I wanted to see who was using an image, because there were images that they were used by something. Like if you were in the image editor, you could see that there was, okay, there's an image and it's used by something, but you don't know what. And it was driving me crazy. So I made this thing that you can basically select an image data block and you can see who is using it. And it's here under scene debug. And you basically tell it. You can also do it for material. So you should select the material, which material, click, and it will tell you which objects, if some objects is using it. So if I give it, if I make this to use it, then I can go back and then see who's using it. Hey, Cube03 is actually using it, and you can actually click on it and it's going to select it. So this was broken for images, and now it's now it works. Basically, it was broken because background images are no longer tied to the viewport, but to the camera, to the background camera, and also in images, in empty images. So now this works. Also, the listing images, it will also look inside of empty objects just to see if they are using that data block. Another fix was that the save and reload operator is an operator that I added many years ago when Blender didn't have a way to reload a library without closing it. Basically, you had to save and reload every time. Now you can do it, so I don't know if anybody is using this feature, but the problem was that if you were painting an image, like if you were doing any kind of image and then you save and reload, it wouldn't tell you anything and you will lose data because Blender doesn't save by default. It prompts you when you're quitting or changing files. So now it actually tells you, or sends you to save if you haven't saved the file, but actually tells you, hey, this image hasn't been saved yet. And that's it. And another bug fix just to not show the file browser features in the asset browser. The many add-ons like the curve assign shape keys or the curve tools or the grease pencil tools or the UV layout also have been upgraded to use the new to basically not use the BGL module but use the new GPU module. So if you have an add-on that was using the BGL module because that's what it was available back then, you can look at the commits of these changes and see what is the equivalent. It's like, oh, but I was using GL line width. Well, now you have to use line width set, and this gives you an idea. All the links are in the description, so if you want to go look at how these commits are done, you can. And I think that's it for add-ons. Yeah, so add-ons are made in Python. Let's talk about Python. There are a bunch of options for snapping that are now exposed in the transform operators, such as snap elements, use snap self, use snap edit, use snap non-edit, use snap selectable only, project, same target. Basically all the snapping options are now available, accessible via Python. So if you have an add-on that uses this or would like to use these features, I guess it's mainly modeling add-ons or retopology, you can use these options now available in the API. Next is the same fallback options for the Gizmo group type are now exposed. Context, there is so if you're familiar with the select visible actions context in Python, now there is a new one called active action that will try its best to tell you which action is active. Even though there's not such concept, it will try its best. You can read more in the description. Also, this is more of a UI change, but related to the accessing values via Python, is that the custom properties panel now is going to use the right context for the action you're editing. In the animation in the RNA, Colin added a clear method to fcurve keyframe points. And last but not least, in Python, there's now new opcodes for safe Py drivers. If you don't know what a Py driver is or an opcode, you're good. Nothing to see here. Cool. And that's it. 6 o'clock. I managed to cover a bunch of stuff. Let's close some of the tabs. And let's see how many comments. 15. All right, let's try to do as many as I can. Let's get to it. I need some mate first. I'm celebrating with mate. It's been ages since I had mate in the live stream. Okay. Aslan says, hello and congratulations for the 200 live show. Thank you. I just wonder, what is the general politic of Blender Office with great grease pencil like add-ons? Grease pencil, they need some help sometimes or just to be promoted? Well, we are promoting them right now. But what is the politic of Blender Office? Code tools, cutout animation tools, documentation. This is documentation for the Blender Godot add-on cutout animation tools. If you like this add-on, donate. Cutout animation tools for Blender is a 2D rigging and animation suite. GIMP sprite folder. I'm not familiar with these add-ons, but what do you mean by the policy of adding add-ons inside of Blender? For example, my add-on, the Amaranth that I just showed, is now part of Blender itself. And in fact, in my repository, I added a note that the add-on is now part of Blender built-in add-on, so I don't even have to update it myself anymore. But in order for this to happen, I proposed it to have it in, and I commit myself to always be available to update it as much as possible. So if these people are, although this has been updated a year ago, maybe this is not a good example, and the last release was in 2019, so the API it's already like this is 2.8, we're at 3.2, 3.3. So yeah, the policy mainly is that if someone is available for updating it, then yes. Otherwise, not always. Like this 10 hours ago. Okay, this is cool. BS Max. Package of modeling, rig and animation, render tools, and UI simulator. As long as it's open source, anybody can. Wait, no, what is this? 3S Max. Are you comfortable if you're from other software? If they're very niche, then maybe UI simulator. What is a UI simulator? I'm curious. I need to continue with the other questions, but yeah, about promotion, they've been mentioned. Oh, by the way, I added a new feature the other day to Blender Community. If you hit Ctrl Space, the same shortcut that you use for Blender, Ctrl Space, now it will center the post in the middle. Okay, hi Pablo, I saw recently that Linux got GPU rendering support for AMD GPUs. Yes, however, I have a 6950, nice, GPU with the latest drivers, and sadly under preferences, render cycles in the HIP tab, I get the message. Am I missing this, or does Blender and Linux still not support rendering? Well, do you have the driver version? You should check the driver version. Driver is very important. 22.10. Some of the drivers are even in beta, so make sure that you have that. If you are unsure, check the driver version, or also go to the wiki page, release notes, 3.3 LTS, and then where AMD. Here you can get maybe more information on Windows and Linux, both discrete. You can click on here, and sometimes they give more information about the support. But the first thing, check your drivers. Hey Pablo, can you please tell me how to negotiate with Blender developers to implement right-click select ideas? There is no negotiation involved. It's dedication. So if you also, not all right-click select ideas are great. I'm sorry, but even not great, but maybe great is not a good word, but not all of them are compatible in a way with how Blender does certain things, or maybe they just want to implement things that are in other software that for like either licensing issues or just different ways of working, that not always they're all compatible. So there's no like a negotiation. You just need to promote it, share it on Twitter, and like hashtag B3D and show why this is important, and then someone from the community maybe will jump in and do it. But the Blender developers are like the developers that are paid by Blender. They're also very busy not only making their own contributions but reviewing community contributions. So going through right click select is very good. I do it all the time, but mainly for to see if I can help with some of the features, or if there is maybe some like not a trending, but yeah, it's a trend, or like something that a lot of people are requesting. Is like, okay, this is serious. Blend Creator asks, is there a way to change the algorithm? Hey, by the way, Blend Creator, the algorithm of void particles, or to display it in a node editor? No. This I guess will happen in when the particle nodes are implemented. Hey Pablo, I am one of the few users of the industry compatible keybind setting, but unfortunately I feel like this option has been neglected. For instance, the viewport render mode pie menu, the one that allows you to quickly switch between cycles and Eevee, isn't even available in this industry. What do you mean cycles and Eevee? You mean the preview? The set? This one is not implemented? What shortcut? Well, actually you are right, that has been neglected. Like the one maintainer was the one that actually implemented it and it was maintaining it was Willem, but he hasn't been able to be involved in Blender development lately. So if anybody out there is open and wants to maintain the industry compatible key map, or any other key map for that matter, please get involved. Go to Blender chat and talk in Blender developers like, hey, I want to help with the industry standard key map. There are many areas in Blender, many small features here and there, that even like themes options, and that often it was maintained by one person, that maybe that person, I don't know, had to move, had COVID or something, you know, had a kid or a new family, then yeah, unfortunately some features get not neglected, but yeah, they just stop getting maintained. All right, let's do, it's already 6:10. Let's do 5 more questions. This is hello Paulo. Oh, why is it taking so long? It's a lot of people in the website. It's also liked by the same users, so I don't know if it counts. Maybe let's go to the bottom and let's go to answer the ones that have been asked first, just to be fair. Blender Defender says, a new way. Hi, by the way, Blender Defender. Defend your highs, your hellos, your greetings. A new way to use the transform tools. GIS Model Ops has been released recently. What do you think? What is this? I think everything is low. Even, what is this? Netlify. Ah, come on. You're be the links netlify. Come on, you can give the full. It's a link in disguise that redirects to somewhere else. And it goes to Gumroad. What is it? Press G, press X, press R, press X, press S, press X. Model operator, gizmos, and model. Yes. And hold G, R, and S, and then move. So sticky keys. They have been proposed in the past, not very popular among many people. But I guess sticky keys, there is a public for sticky keys in that. The moment you're still using Gizmo, you will never want to go back to standard Blender. Yeah, but tell me, what is it? It's a more intuitive way of working that you need to experience to understand it. Blends two workflows already in Blender into one harmonious workflow. Okay. Indispensable for teachers. Makes working Blender much easier. Yeah, but choose clarity in words or with GIFs. All of Blender devs. Has development of GeoNodes helped improve other areas of Blender? Absolutely. I think the GeoNodes has improved curve editing because now we have curve sculpting, which is attached to geometry nodes, so it's actually improving it. I think much more. Modeling, and for example, the parametric modeling. In the future, when you add Shift A and add a UV sphere, these options that are here, they disappear. In the future, this can be a node group. Actually, the team is already doing tests in like what Dalai mentioned of using node groups as operators. So you could basically have this parametric modeling stick around. So yeah, has improved. All right, that was 5, 4, 3. Don't you think that being able to select and drag node links entirely and not just by their ends will be an extremely beneficial upgrade in usability, especially with the join geometry node? It's quite hard to detach the current link when many of them are attached to the node, and it becomes a process of guessing and trial and error. Here's a proposal that sums up. Is this the proposal? Or yes, this is it. So let's see. Ergonomic. Okay, this is another software. A single link on the socket should start the noodle without having to hold. Should what? Should starts the noodle without having to hold the left mouse button, similar to how GRS. You click and then you enter. I don't know. How do you make a socket active though? And maybe Control Shift. Then the noodle line should be selectable, detachable with a single click, and also sticks to the mouse cursor instead of click and hold. Oh, so you like sticks to it. Yeah, I guess. Although I think Shift could be. I guess one of those things that you have to use to see, but it sounds reasonable. Although nothing in Blender works like that at the moment. Like GRS is something like in this proposal, but with a click on empty space. Basically, both options of single click from the socket and the whole drag will coexist and be provided to the end user who prefer one or the other or both. That is correct. Actually, I wouldn't mind to see how that could work. If someone can make a prototype. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, hey guys, congrats on the second episode, 200 episode. These things I want to ask. Is it possible to get some great improvements in the 3D view where one can change the subdivisions amount without having units set to none and adjust the amount of grids instead of scaling? Is it possible to get some grid improvements where one can change the subdivisions without having units set to none? Well, the thing is, the subdivisions are attached to the units in a way that they make sense, as in 1 meter, 10 centimeters. But I guess it could be like if you want to do it you want to step every 15 centimeters, I guess that could be. But I guess with an offset, right? You would like to use like scale the grid to not follow the unit. 2, having a line and cursor arrow when using snap options and CAD-like transforms. What are CAD-like transforms? Is it like precise modeling? But what is specifically a CAD-like transform? Any support on pie menus having more than 8 menus? The thing is, a pie menu, for example, this is maximum. It has 8. if you have more than this, then you can't guarantee that you're actually like, this is the area for one item, which makes it very easy if you just like go up, down. But if you have more items than this, it's just you lose the precision, I think, because that I don't know, the beauty of it is that you don't even need to see which option you're activating. You just know, you just grab down, top, bottom, and having more than 8 can mess with that. Letting add-ons access the correct face attribute option in BMesh Python API. I didn't know this was an issue. Letting add-ons access the correct face attribute option. This maybe just a bug that it's missing, but I didn't even know that it was missing out. And the last question. Hey Pablo, how are you? Will there be a montage for 3.3 like 2.9 had? Yes, actually yes. And maybe I can go back to full screen. Yeah, actually yes. So please tag your work. It's mainly on Twitter, on ArtStation, but mainly on Twitter. If you have work with that you want to be featured on the 3.3 reel, please get in touch. I know the Geometry Nodes team is also working on making a reel, like a demo reel for only Geometry Nodes stuff. Some of that is going to go into a more general reel with like Eevee stuff, with Grease Pencil, pretty much anything Blender. But yeah, that's the idea. So once that is yeah, well, please share it with #D3D and make sure that it's Creative Commons and that you own the rights to be shareable, basically. But yeah, actually that should happen soon. The next week we are gonna have a show. Yes, the week after though, I think it's already gonna be time for SIGGRAPH. Yeah, the 1st of August is our next show, and then on the 8th already we're not gonna be seeing each other here, at least at this space, but we are gonna be at SIGGRAPH. So if you want to stay in touch, we can also do it via other mediums. Instagram might be the thing that we're gonna use the most, like Instagram stories, so stay tuned for that. But we still have one more week, so what do you say that we actually just wrap this up, 200 episodes, and see you on next week around the same time in the same place for Blender Today 201 next week. Ouch, I forgot to mention. Okay, thanks everybody, thanks for tuning in, and thanks the guys for sending me the cake. Happy 200 for you too, and have a great week. We'll see you again next week, same place, same time, for another Blender Today live. Ciao. Hey, nobody said anything about this. I spent all evening last adding a wave modifier to that text. Nobody said anything. Okay, see ya, bye.